one of the interesting things in the wake of the last presidential election is that we get these little tidbits about what was going on for different politicians during that time. And it's easy now to think like, Romney was the nominee. Romney is, he was the serious candidate. He was always going to be the nominee. But of course, that's not the case. At various points during the last Republican nominating process, there were other people who seemed to be up from week to week, like Herman Cain, Michelle Bachmann had her week, Rick Santorum. And now we're finding out that at one point, Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum were very seriously considering a unity ticket that they believe could knock Romney out of the primary. This is sort of silly from my point of view, the fact that those two guys who are so vociferous in their opposition to each other, to Democrats, that they'd be the guys who'd bring unity. But that was the idea at the time. Unfortunately, it was not to be, perhaps because of the reasons I was alluding to. We have a quote from John Brabender, Santorum's chief strategist. He says that everybody thought there was an opportunity. It would have sent shockwaves through the establishment and the Romney campaign. And then Newt Gingrich, however, says, in the end, it was just too hard to negotiate. And there he's referring to who would have been the president on that ticket. And I think that's kind of interesting. Obviously, both of those guys, very full of themselves. Neither would have wanted to be the vice president to the other.
Yeah.
Do you think that this could have possibly worked, both to win the primary and to possibly go on and challenge Barack Obama?
No.
Absolutely not.
No, I mean, the Republican primary was such a roller coaster, and the reason why some candidates did well at certain points of the primary show you that the Republican electorate didn't even really know what to do. None of the candidates seemed interesting. All of them seemed to make these gaffes and these ridiculous statements that got them into trouble. So even Herman Cain, I mean, that amazes me that Herman Cain was, the popular candidate at one point. It shows you just how much of a roller coaster it was. But Gingrich said a lot of stupid things. Rick Santorum said a lot of stupid things. Just going back to one of the dumb things that Gingrich said, he was basically advocating that underage kids enter the job force and do like hard labor. I mean, remember that? And I remember even the Republican Party was like, oh God, this guy's going way too far.
No, you can't say that. No.
Yeah.
Well, I think also with the craziness, the roller coaster of the primary, the primaries were that the media was leading, I think, the base around by the nose. The right-wing media leading the right-wing base around by the nose. Because every time they came up with, okay, here's the new popular guy. Okay, now it's Herman Cain. Okay, now it's Santorum. Okay, now it's Gingrich.
Yeah.
And then that would follow this predictable cycle where they would suddenly become extremely popular in the ratings. And then they would fall again because they said something stupid. And then it was time to anoint the next front runner. And then that person would come. And I'd be interested in seeing if there is any data or correlation between, maybe a campaign, sort of a private backstage campaign to promote different candidates at different times in order to maintain that interest, to keep stringing it out as long as possible because it's good for ratings.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the ratings element. I mean, the media doesn't want to report on 6 months of, Romney's still up by 3 points over the second place, Republican. Like, they don't want that. They want the drama. And I think that at least the individuals in the media, they want to be kingmakers. They want to be the one who called it, that, it's going to be Herman Cain in 2016 maybe or something like that. But it's pretty ridiculous. I think that the reason you saw the swings back and forth is that the average Republican primary voter didn't know much about these candidates. Probably the stuff that they did know wasn't particularly positive, which is why they were willing to turn from week to week. But I do disagree on one part. I think that now it seems sort of natural that Romney won. But I don't know that if they had done this, if they had, let's say Rick Santorum had convinced the people who had been supporting him to support Newt Gingrich instead, I think that could have possibly been successful in winning the primary for Newt Gingrich. That's a very different question from winning against Barack Obama. I don't know about that. I think it's less likely. But I think that it could have possibly won a primary. I mean, these primary voters are crazy.
So that's a possibility, but when it comes to the actual presidential election, there's no chance. I mean, the Republican Party had so many obstacles in this last election, which is why Obama won the electoral vote and the popular vote. I mean, think about it. The war on women, all of these ridiculous attempts to redefine rape, the lack of outreach to the Latino community. I mean, a number of things. So the Republicans were really fighting an uphill battle, thankfully, and that's why Obama got reelected.
Well, and then there's also that fight, the idea that Gingrich and Santorum together could have had any chance. I mean, maybe they would have had a chance in the primary, probably because they would have gone, full bore crazy. But as far as the general election, I don't think that's even possible. But I also think it shows that they still didn't get it. They did not get what the lesson I think that they need to get if they want to become a more viable, useful party, is to actually realize that voters aren't interested in their policies. When voters find out what their policies are, they don't want them.
Yeah.
They don't like them. They don't agree with them.